Hello and welcome. MapmyIndia, India's leader in premium quality digital map data navigation, tracking, LBS products and GPS and GIS-based system integration services. Now, despite the entry of indigenous and multinational competitors, MapmyIndia does remain the preferred source for digital map data for consumers, industry and the government. Let's in fact speak to the management to discuss why that is and what's helping them to maintain their ground. Rakesh and Rohan Verma joining us on the show today. Thanks so much for being with us, gentlemen. Rakesh, let me just start off with you. And for someone like me who's really challenged when it comes to finding my way around, how does MapmyIndia really solve problems when it comes to corporates, when it comes to consumers and their basic, ability to really locate things?
Well, the underlying things are basically the maps and using the location technologies. Now, if you have a high quality map and you have a very interesting and powerful application software, then the questions that you asked just now, they all get solved. Building these high quality maps have not been an easy task. It dates back to almost 20 years back when we visualized that maps will play a very important role in the lives of the consumers or businesses or for the government. And today, as you rightly said, that how are we facing this challenge to remain competitive and remain the leader in this industry? Well, passion is one of the most important part. The entire team of MapmyIndia is the kind of passion everyone has, because they see something that what they're building, they see a result out of it. And these are the reasons, this is the fundamental reason how we are remaining competitive and maintaining the leadership position.
Fair. In fact, Ron, take us to how the journey's really been out here, because Ron, I remember initially MapmyIndia was synonymous when we spoke about any kind of maps as far as the domestic context is concerned. There were a lot of operators in the international front, but at least in the domestic market, you probably were one of the first companies to actually come in that space. So take us first to how the journey's really been, because today there are numerous other offerings as well, and it's changed from that from a certain equipment in the car to on your mobile phones as well. So take us first to what kind of changes we've seen and how you managed to evolve in that.
Sure. MapmyIndia started about 25 years ago with the vision of my parents to basically bring the benefits of digital maps to consumers, enterprises and the government. And they set out with 400 field surveyors to collect data from the length and breadth of India, driving millions of kilometers with GPS survey equipment, collecting data from the streets. And over a period of about 10 years, they basically created India's first digital map data product, which didn't exist at the time, nor with the government, nor in the private sector. Now, over the last 10 years, especially since 2004, we've infused a lot of technology into our map data creation process, as well as our map data publishing process, which has allowed us to create far more accurate digital map data that we're able to take in various forms to our different users across consumer or enterprise. So to give you one example, we serve the automotive market using our digital maps, which essentially powers the navigation systems in cars such as BMW on the top end to Tatas and Mahindra in the bottom end, and all the and everything in between. Now, our maps are becoming so advanced that we're now talking about powering self-driving cars in India using our maps, with an intermediate step being advanced driver assistance systems, which are using the really accurate as well as a lot of different attributes in our map data, such as the slope in the road, the speed breakers in the road, the curvature in the road, what you really see around the road as you drive. So we have really infused this technology with this passion to build a high quality product for India by Indians, to be able to power technology that is just now coming in the Western world. We don't want India to be behind. We want to bring the benefits of maps and location technologies to people everywhere. Exactly. So that's one example of how we are staying competitive in the face of others.
Rohan, so I want to understand a few other examples here as well, because I feel as you also just mentioned, particularly in the last few years and the change in the industry and changing dynamics, there has been a need to suddenly cater to various segments. A lot of new opportunities have opened up. First up, in fact, we were looking at how this is something that's also been used in polling, and we're counting down to the Bihar elections. It's an area where you have seen MapmyIndia used in the past. Just take us through how something like that would work and what the opportunity is like there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, polling is becoming a business now, and it's synonymous with how enterprises use MapmyIndia's map data and location technologies to really do a lot of micro market analysis. So just the way an FMCG company uses MapmyIndia's data down to the village, down to the house address in cities, down to the ward, down to the polling constituency, polling booth, they're all using MapmyIndia's data and analytics capabilities to figure out where have they reached in terms of their polling booth workers or their sales staff or their field staff. Where all have they reached? Where all are people willing to vote for them? Where are people willing to vote for somebody else? So this is what we call micro market location-based analytics or micro market geo-demographics. We see a wide range of sectors or industries across the private sector or public sector which are using MapmyIndia's data, and which is not just the base map data, but demographics in terms of how many men, how many women, what age, what different basically socioeconomic status and things like that exist, and they use our location analytics, our software as a service solutions, which leverage location-based technologies to create insights which help them figure out their next course of action, as well as they use our technologies such as our tracking systems to monitor their vehicles, their assets, their people in the field as to whether they're going or not going into the field where they're supposed to after the planning exercise is done centrally. So these are some of the ways that different people are using on the enterprise side, on the business side. And for consumers, we have actually some very simple applications which we've done in elections in the past, where on an interactive map of whatever region, we can show you where polling booths are, which polling area you belong to, which are the candidates in your area, and you can make an informed decision as a voter as to where you should go to vote, as well as who you should vote for based on the different location-based analytics.
I may just add one thing. Since you talked about Bihar elections, while we are talking right today, the Bihar Election Commission is using MapmyIndia's tracking services to keep a track on whatever they have to do. There are 200 vehicles across the state.
Well, that's fabulous. And Rakesh, I actually want to take that point forward by asking you this, because it's not only one or two services that you're actually offering. You've in fact diversified into some of the product areas as well. I was just browsing recently on the website itself. There are some other products, Rakesh, that you've actually launched recently. Take us to that as well.
Yeah, I can take that. Basically, MapmyIndia's different product lines are around advanced maps, which are basically the map data and the APIs we provide on top of that map data, so that any business or any developer, you're seeing so many startups, so many technology companies coming up in India, so many large enterprises which want to become technology enabled so that they can leapfrog their competitors. They can use MapmyIndia's advanced map data and APIs, web-based APIs, to build any location-based service internally or offer that to end consumers. And we're seeing companies across e-commerce, on-demand transportation, and even traditional large business houses which want to get that technology edge through location using that. So that's advanced maps. Then we have this big area of IoT devices, GPS-based Internet of Things devices. We have one product which we launched recently called SafeMate, which addresses this personal safety issue for young children, for women, for elderly citizens. You've had these incidents in the last 2 years where people vulnerable people have been in vulnerable situations and they need help.
Rohan,
well, using SafeMate.
Rohan, I get your point. Sorry, I'm sorry. So we're running out of time, but I just wanted to get one more, perspective from you gentlemen, just very quickly. Today when I understand these different lines that you're present in, and is that where you see growth? Because today when a consumer has a lot of choices in terms of GPS devices, is that then not going to be your core going forward? Is that a serious competition? Is that why you're branching into so many different things? Is that what your core competency really is?
Yeah, we as a company, we want to make sure people get the benefits of maps and location technologies. Now, we've had a really large push internally in terms of delivering amazing or interesting mobile apps, because the world is moving towards mobile and India is leading that front. So to compete with the free offerings such as Google Maps, which use a lot of data, and even though they're supposedly free, they use a lot of data and it doesn't work in congested networks. We have a product called Maps, which works completely offline. The maps are stored on your device and they're much more accurate down to house address level. And like that, we have a slew of other mobile apps coming. So we believe that our maps, our solutions are more suited towards Indian consumers, and we welcome competition. We hope that because we've had a much better product offering, consumers and enterprises will end up using us as they have in the last 20 years.
All right, gentlemen, we'll leave it there. Thank you so much for taking the time out today and sharing your story with us and taking us through what the plans are at MapmyIndia there. Interesting profile, remember, but it's been all about the way the maps have been used. GPS really kick-started almost 5 to 10 years back when you had a lot of convenience while driving, while even using it on a day-to-day basis.
I always find it very confusing, Priyat, but all right, so we leave it. Thanks so much for joining us today on Countdown. We'll continue to bring you some of the most exciting rising stars out there. Do stay tuned. We've got headlines coming up next.
Thank you for watching.